What's up, guys? JayzTwoCents here, back in the saddle. It's good to be back. We're gonna talk about some Threadripper. We're gonna rip some threads. We're gonna rip it apart because I don't know, man. There's some pretty good memes going around the internet right now where AMD is just uppercutting the shit out of Intel, and this is like, man, did AMD not pull any punches?
Cooler Master's Master Key Pro series of keyboards offer 16.7 million color RGB, genuine cherry switches, a variety of sizes, as well as surface-mounted controls allowing full customization without the need for standalone software. Learn more by following.
First and foremost, guys, I'm not going to talk about specs really. I mean, a little bit, but this is not a spec overview video. I'm late to the party on that. That embargo lifted a few days ago. Plenty of tech YouTubers have already covered it. Go and check out those channels, or probably just look at your sub box. I'm sure there's information there. There's going to be a lot of information out there. Also, too, if I'm looking out this way, it's because I have a laptop right here with notes, 9 pages of notes to be exact. Nick is quite the note taker because we went to the AMD press conference thing, and Nick took a lot of notes. You can tell that guy went to college. Damn it, I just shrunk them. Oops. They're really big now. Okay, we're back. So the point of today's video is just to kind of talk with you guys about my take on Threadripper, what are my plans with Threadripper, and what can we expect moving forward, because you guys have been asking me that for a while now. And I refused to talk about it until I had more concrete information. I won't talk about rumors because I want to see the information firsthand. But I think AMD, for once, was very forthcoming and honest with a lot of their marketing material. You guys, I'm sure you guys would agree there's been some past issues with some of the slides and things they would present, but they were very forthcoming with information and how it compares to Intel and where they win and where they lose. Most brands don't show where they lose, they just highlight where they win. And I felt like they did a really good job at answering a lot of questions. So let's start with this. There's 3 SKUs, obviously. 1950X for $1,000, 16 cores, 32 threads. You've got the 1920X, a $799 processor, 12 core, 24 threads. Later on this month, I think it was the 31st of August, is going to be the 1900X, which is $549, 8 core, 16 threads. Essentially, it is a Ryzen 1800X, but with 64 PCIe lanes and quad channel memory. So it's not a single die, there's still dual dies on the chip, but the way the Infinity Fabric works and the way the memory is, it is still a dual die chip. Threadripper is kind of interesting because it's the first time we've seen any HPDT or high performance desktop out of AMD in a long time. They have not been concerned with competing in the high-end desktop arena. In fact, a few years back, they even publicly said, we are not interested in competing with that. Well, obviously there has been some command changes in Intel over the last few years, and yeah, they came out swinging, man. And this fight between AMD and Intel right now is almost as good as the Mayweather versus McGregor showdowns at the press conferences. But yeah, obviously time will tell how these really play out. Now, 16 cores and 32 threads, that's a lot. And the problem with that is when you start to have that many threads, a lot of applications may not actually take advantage of it. So AMD was very proactive, allowing resources to be able to have backwards compatibility with Threadripper on day one. And given the fact that Ryzen being a new architecture and there were some growing pains with that, and this being the same architecture, we can see some pretty good day one compatibility with both memory modules and software. So that's going to be a good thing. I've seen a lot of people ask me, though, like, who needs 16 cores and 32 threads? It's ridiculous. Games only use yada, yada, yada. Well, if you're thinking about Threadripper and you're thinking about gaming, you're not thinking about it in the right way. You're right. It's absolutely overkill for something like gaming. Unless you're one of those guys like me who's also an enthusiast and you're like, you know what? I know it's overkill, but I like overkill. I want overkill. There's no justification needed to go out and buy it. But if you're also that guy that's like, I want to play games and I don't know what this whole live streaming thing's about, let's try it out. It is a monster when it comes to multi-threaded performance. Now, we did see an average of about 28% performance improvement across the board when compared to the equally priced Intel 7900X. So that's pretty badass right there. And I think we're gonna see some more performance over time as applications become more optimized for this level of multi-threaded performance. But maybe you're the kind of person that doesn't need 16 cores, but you still want to do the live streaming and stuff, then the 1920X is definitely going to be an attractive CPU with its 24 threads, or maybe even the 1900X at only $50 more than the 1800X Ryzen chip, but still giving you the 64 PCIe lanes and quad channel DDR4. So that's going to be worth taking a look at. You know, I've said this before, and people have called me out, calling me an Intel shill or an Nvidia shill or whatever. And you guys might notice I haven't talked about Vega yet, because that's going to be a different video. I want to get my hands on Vega. I don't know when we're getting it, so time will tell on that. So that's a video for another time. But I've always said, I go where performance is best. And in the CPU side of things, guys, I think most people would agree with me, maybe even some fanboys would agree with me, that AMD has not been competitive on the CPU side of things until 2017. All right, I mean, the last time they had anything new was when the bulldozer architecture came out, and obviously excavator and pile driver and all that stuff. But we're talking like 2011, guys. That's 6 years ago. It's been a long, and even then, it only competed with like Sandy Bridge. And then once Ivy Bridge came out, and Intel kept, actually seeing some incremental good improvements jumps, it hasn't been competitive since then. And then Intel stopped really improving things and just giving us more minor refreshes. They got away from the TikTok. And it became disappointing, and we get where we are today, where you get companies that are complacent like Intel, and they just are not pushing the envelope like they could. But AMD has changed all that. And the way I know that is the way that you can tell what's happening in the market, and you can tell what's happening internally in a company with the way that they present themselves. And Intel has taken a lot of flack this year regarding their choice of shaving PCIe lanes as you move down the stack. AMD is obviously not, they paid attention to what's happening with Intel, and all I/O, all of your lanes, all of your cache and all that stuff is completely available on all of their Threadripper chips. 64 PCIe lanes going down the stack. There's 3 SKUs at this time. I don't know if more are coming later, but it is, they're just like, we heard the market, we heard the outcry, and there's no reason to do that. That's greedy, why would we do it? So they're open, which is amazing because now you can have multi-GPUs, multi-M.2s, you can have your RAID cards, your sound cards, your capture cards, no problem. Because on Intel right now, if you try and run a dual 16x SLI config, well, how many threads is that? Well, it's more than 28, so it's going to go 16x and 8x, and you don't have a lot available. It's just, and the fact that they would even have their 8-core 16-thread 7820X or K, I can't remember the SKU, but anyway, 28 PCIe lanes on a CPU that cost $600. So a couple of funny things have happened though regarding Intel and Nvidia since the Threadripper launch and the Vega announcement, which is kind of interesting to me because it tells me that these two companies are concerned at least a little bit. I mean, they've both lost a little bit of market share. Intel more than Nvidia, obviously, but it's funny because Intel and Nvidia have this whole like, we're not scared, right? Our performance numbers stand for themselves. But they both made some interesting decisions that I think is kind of funny. So for instance, I get this I get this notification that suddenly an Intel 7820X has been shipped to me. I didn't ask for it, I don't want it, and it's on the way. So that tells me Intel, without even like getting any sort of approval of like, hey, can we send this to you, was like, we want to get Intel's name out in front of the audience. Well, guys, I don't play that game, sorry. I have no use for it, don't know what I'll do with it, but for now, I mean, you're not gonna see that end up in anything. So it's obviously a marketing tactic. And then Nvidia, let's talk about that one for a second, because although Vega's performance is not going to be anywhere near the Titan X performance, its compute performance is through the roof, right? In terms of games, Vega is right around the 1080, which I think has disappointed some people. They were hoping for 1080 Ti levels of performance in games, but it's definitely a stopgap card between gamers and content producers like myself, where you can leverage a lot of the compute performance. Pretty much like decimates a lot of what's out regarding Nvidia right now. And so Nvidia responds with a sudden driver improvement that improves the compute performance on Titan by up to 3x. I think everyone can see right through that, right? They've already like wringed a lot of money out of the market with the first Titan, and then released the official Titan XP for the same price of the Titan. It was like a very quiet launch, right? So you could have bought the Titan the day before the new card came out and you didn't even know. I did a video about that, and I stand by my statement with that. But now suddenly a driver that improves performance by like X amount, that's insane. I mean, it's obvious what was happening there. But then the funniest part was, remember back to the Terry Crews build where I had requested the Titan XPs for him, and they were like, it's not a gaming card, it's an AI card. We recommend the 1080 Ti. And it's like, there's no reason why this card wouldn't be an amazing gaming card. Look at all of the CUDA cores, look at all the ROPs and stuff. So why not call it a gaming card? Well, it's not a gaming card, but we'll go ahead and provide it. And then now in their new marketing material, they're calling the Titan XP built for not only like professional workflow, but also for gamers. I just found that kind of funny and laughable, guys. I just wanted to share with that. Anyway, So those are my thoughts on Threadripper, and I'm going to say this right now, and I told this to AMD. I told them this at the event. I said, if what we see on paper here turns out to be true and factual, then my next system for myself and the custom system you guys have all been waiting for will indeed be an AMD Threadripper 1950X. And I'm happy. I'm excited about that. Nick will tell you, I'm super excited about Threadripper, man. And yeah, that content coverage is coming. Water blocks and all, waiting on that. There will be EK water block support on day one, so once I get my block in and all that, then we will definitely talk about that. But also, on a final note though, because I completely skipped it, is cooling. Cooling is something that you're gonna have to keep in mind with this though. They're shipping with it an Asetek bracket so that any Asetek based coolers, the round coolers anyway, will be able to hook up to your motherboard immediately. And there's something like 20 or 25 water coolers supported at launch. There's only 5 air coolers right now supported. Noctua, I think Cyborg and Cooler Master. But the Noctua ones, they said were going to be a little bit delayed, so technically there's only a couple air coolers available. But we're looking at 180 watts-ish of heat that needs to be handled at stock speeds, so I wouldn't consider even overclocking this on air. I mean, I guess you could, depending if you get a winning chip that doesn't require a lot of voltage, but we'll obviously cover all of that in my future videos. So thanks guys for listening to this rambling head video. It was kind of nice to get my mind off things and talk about something fun and exciting from this company, which who would have thought just came out swinging. Kind of like McGregor and Mayweather are gonna. That's gonna be a good fight. And this is kind of like the tech version of that. I'm excited. You guys sound off in the comments and tell me what you think. You're probably gonna love it, you're probably gonna hate it. Fanboyisms aside, it is what it is. Thanks for watching guys, and as always, I will see you in the next one.